Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, 5 Reasons to Use Automated Workflows in Your ERP Solution. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you sharing some of it with us today. Now, with that said, I'd like to introduce our 2 presenters. Our first speaker is Dan Griffin, who serves as Director of Product Management and Product Marketing for Exact McCullough Division, located in Dublin, Ohio. As part of the senior leadership team, Dan guides the vision of the McCullough product line, oversees product marketing activities, and serves as one of the primary representatives for the McCullough brand. Our second speaker is Dave Dozer, Senior Product Manager, who has over a decade of experience in the IT and ERP industry with a background in hardware and networking, accounting and distribution, application development, quality assurance, and leadership experience. And he is a veritable cornucopia of expertise. Now, with that said, I'd like to kick this off and pass it over to Dan, who's going to start us off here.
All right. Thank you, Nick. But thank you, everyone, for joining. This should be a lot of fun. Thanks, Nick, for the introduction. We've had a really good turnout for the webinar here, and so please, if you'd like to ask questions, please do so. I think this will be a lot of fun and very informative. So let's go ahead and get started. Today we're talking about automation, and I think that's a really important topic. And one of the things that that we did here is that when you registered for this webinar, there was a question in that registration, and we've compiled the statistics here. And the question was, what would be the most valuable benefit of automated workflows for your business? Overwhelmingly, this kind of surprised me. Overwhelmingly, what you guys said was that you were looking to reduce the manual effort, the paperwork, the busy work, that you wanted to increase productivity. So while I think all of these are important, it looks like the idea of getting rid of that manual step, kind of what I think of as the drudgery work, the stuff that you think there's got to be a better way, that's what you guys resonated with. So we'll definitely touch on that. In fact, that actually flows pretty well into something I was thinking about the other day. My wife has been in a mode where she's cleaning up the house, and we're selling. If you haven't used this, sell this, clean this up, get rid of this. And so, every time that we go through this, I kind of have this love-hate relationship with eBay. And what I mean by that is I always have these intentions of, man, I'm going to sell all this stuff on eBay. And I do a few things. And, you take the pictures, you post them on the page, somebody buys it, then you got to box it up, you got to weigh the box, and you got to print the label, and you get, all your packaging and all this kind of stuff. And every time I do it, I say I'm never doing that again, right? Because every time I do it, I think it's just not worth the $30 or $40 that I made from that effort. The interesting thing is I think to myself, if I could automate that, like if I were a store selling 10,000 of these same items, it wouldn't be a big deal, right? You'd have it automated. You'd be able to batch it in ways that makes economies of scale. And so it's the same thing, right? It's if I had an automated process, that would be so much more streamlinable, it makes so much more sense for me as an eBay seller. Well, that's how it is in the business world too, and that's what we're going to be talking about today is ways that we could use automation to take out that human element, that human. It's not just time value of money, but it's money value of time, right? What's our money value of time when we're doing these things that we can automate? So let's take a look at our first poll question. Nick's going to put a poll up in the webinar tool here. How many automated workflows does your business currently have in place? Be curious to see what you guys say here. So how many workflows are you currently using today? All right, it's about what I expected, was that it would be somewhere between 0 and maybe a few. And that is exactly what we see here, is that 31% of you said, what automated workflows? We don't have any. 51% said we have a few. So 82% of you are in this category of 0, maybe a few if we're lucky, right? So that's what we want to fix here with what we can do with McCullough 10 automation. In our last webinar, we told you this story about automation, and essentially Automation first has to come in. First thing you have to do is you have to figure out how we're going to take this chaotic process and turn it into something resembling order. And so to do that, first you actually have to think about what that process should be and take that chaos and line it up into definable actions that goes step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4 and on down the line. And so on our animation here, basically it's, take that chaotic order and put it into a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 order. Once you have that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's when you can start to automate big chunks of it. So instead of delaying when something gets to an inbox because nobody checked that inbox in a week, let's set up automation to do it, right? Let's take away multiple data entries. So we can then start to automate large chunks of that. And so we used that example in the last webinar. I thought that really resonated. But I want to talk about where else can we automate. Well, I've made some examples here in sales, finance, operations, customer service, HR. For example, in sales, maybe you want to set follow-up alerts for prospects or get notified when one of your main customers has had their order filled and shipped. Maybe you want to flag past due accounts. If you're in operations, maybe you want to know about inventory items that are moving really fast or really slowly. Maybe you want to let customers know about their warranty is about to expire or that 3-year-long maintenance contract they signed is about to come up for renewal, right? You can automate all of these things. Maybe you want to keep an eye on the overtime situation with your workers down in the shop floor. So all of these things are things that can be automated. Another way to slice and dice that is to think not about departments, but to think about the different values that we get out of that. So for example, these are the things that you guys voted on, right? Reducing manual effort. Maybe we want to automatically reorder an item in our warehouse when it gets down to a certain level of inventory. For bottlenecks, maybe we want to get an alert if certain personnel are not available or if something didn't start, if an order didn't start being produced by the day which we said it had to be produced to hit that end date, right? So these are things that we can set up alerts. And really the thing to remember about automation is it's set up in a triggers and actions kind of format. So the way that we think about this is everything is a trigger and an action. What's a trigger? Maybe it's something around inventory. Maybe it's something around production. And then what's an action? Let's take a look at what some of our customers are saying. I don't know if you guys know this, but on our website, Macola.com, we do have customer success stories. We have a lot of videos out there. And I pulled some quotes out of some videos. Don McCall from GL Mazzetta, he told us that in one department, we dropped 4 hours every day on one task. And that's just by using workflows and document management. I mean, can you guys imagine how much money that is? 4 hours a day, every day. Basically, that's a half-time headcount that they eliminated by just automating some processes in their business. So that's a huge money driver for them. Another quote is from Todd Keski at Foam Supplies. And he talked about going from paper to electronic format. So he said taking paper from the departments like production and actually putting it into an electronic format, there was a familiarity going from paper straight to the screen that kept the training necessary to a bare minimum. So the way that they did this was, they created these these electronic forms that look just like paper. And that was something they were able to do, a small step that they were able to automate. Instead of going from paper or going onto paper and then into the system, they could take it right into the system in the first step. So, I talked about triggers and actions, right? So we've looked at some triggers. What are some of the actions that we can take out of the system? Well, maybe you want to, when a trigger happens, you want to create a task in a workflow. Maybe you want to update data in Macola. Maybe you want to create a document in your document management. Maybe you want to do a notification, right? And that notification or alert could come in the form of a text message. Maybe it's in the form of an email, or if you're still using fax, we can handle that as well. Maybe you wanted to kick off a web service, and that could be internally, a web service inside Macola or inside your business. You could call a web service somewhere out on the internet, right? And then, of course, you can save things to logs. You can generate PDF crystal reports. These are all the actions that you get to take after you find that triggered mechanism. So all of it is, do you want to be alerted? How so do you want to be alerted? Do you want it to go into a log? Do you want to send an email, right? So the sky's the limit when you start combining triggers with actions. Now, when Dave comes on the line here in a few minutes, he is going to give a demo. And in his demo, he's going to show how we handle this in 6 key areas: sales opportunities, order processing, supply chain, production, logistics, and finance. But I thought before bringing Dave on the line here, I would just sort of step through these and talk about what are those KPIs that you want to track in each department, and what are some ideas for things that you might want to automate. Take a look at the first one here, sales opportunities. What are some KPIs that we might want to look at there? Well, we might want to track our lead response time, for example. We might want to track how often we're contacting our customers, right? So those are KPIs. So how do we do it? How do we do it in automation? Well, maybe we set up flags around average sales prices that are above or below a certain number. Maybe we flag sales reps' calendars that have tons of appointments or not enough appointments. Maybe we send emails to every new customer on their first order, offering them a coupon, or maybe we send them an email on their first order saying, here's a frequently asked questions document that you can reference, right? So that's all having to do with sales. Order processing, kind of the same thing. You're just a little bit further down the path of production. So in order processing, you have KPIs like wins and losses, or are you hitting your on-time delivery rates? So what are some things you might want to look at? Well, you might want to know when a large order comes in. We ordered some pizza here in the office a few weeks ago, and the pizza didn't show up for 3 hours. And finally, I called and I said, did you guys lose my order, or what's up? It's like 2:30 in the afternoon. Our pizza never arrived, and they told me, oh, sorry about that. We got a large order right in front of you. We had to run 75 pizzas or something like that right in front of yours, right? That's a problem. And they didn't have any way to handle that. It literally just blocked everyone else from getting their order for apparently 2 or 3 hours of prime lunchtime pizza delivery. So, we would want to be alerted about that kind of thing, and maybe we'd have some automation set up to only allow half of the production floor to be used on the large order while not blocking the others, right? So these are all things that you just want to be alerted. You want to know what's going on in your floor so that you don't always have to be watching everything, because nobody can, right? No human can watch everything that a program can watch. Supply chain is another element. You want to know about your inventory turns. You want to know about, how much you're selling versus what you have in stock. So maybe you want to send some invoices, or check the status of invoices if they've been open for a while. Hey, these have been sitting there for, 31 days. Nobody's done anything with it. That's a problem, right? So it's just an alert that you can trigger on invoices. Maybe if you have X number of invoices that haven't been looked at, or if if they need approvals or they've been sitting there with no action. There's tons of stuff that you can do there. Or maybe you got an order for Part B, and Part B is dependent on Part A, and they didn't order Part A, right? Maybe we want to flag that as a dependency and make sure the customer understands what they're doing, that, oh yeah, okay, they meant to do that. They've already got tons of Part A's, they need some Part B's, right? Because we can prevent those kind of errors and those kind of customer satisfaction issues by setting up some checks and balances. If we go down the line here, the next one down is production. We want to think about things like order lead time, and are we delivering things on time to our customers? So things we might want to set up is, if we've got supplies that need to arrive by X date in order for us to hit our delivery date, and if that doesn't hit, or if they haven't been shipped, like let's think a little bit further out. If they haven't been shipped by 5 days before, that's going to be a problem, and we need to be alerted to that. Maybe we want to know that exchange rates. Hey, if we're selling to Mexico or China or wherever, even Canada, exchange rates fluctuate, and if we're not taking other hedging methods, then that's going to impact our business. We need to be alerted to that. Logistics, definitely an issue. You know, what are some things that we need to know? Well, if your inventory falls below a certain level, or if the order was placed at 9 a.m. and it hasn't been picked by 12 p.m., you know, 3 hours later, what's going on? Is there an issue? When something does actually go out the door, is that shipping confirmation, is that tracking number being saved to the customer record? Let's do that automatically. Don't pay someone to go cut and paste a tracking number into a customer record. Have a system do that for you. So 6 weeks from now, when the customer says they never got part XYZ, you can say, well, it was shipped on this date. The tracking number was this. It was delivered on this date and signed for by this person, right? Let's let all of that be automated in your system. And finally, as we walk down the line here, finance and invoicing. We want to know things about accounts payable and accounts receivable. You know, what do we have that's past due? What bills have we not paid, you know, that we're in danger of going past due? What do people owe us? You know, are we sending out payment reminders to our customers? You know, you want to get more money in your door faster? Sometimes it helps just to send a little reminder, and that will trigger payment and actually increase your working capital on hand. And all that can be done, you know, automatically. You know, Nick didn't send out these webinar reminders manually, right? That was done automatically by the webinar system. And of course, that helps drive webinar attendance. So it's just little things like that that take things off of your manual plate and put them into your automated plate. So we're going to go to another poll here, and then it's going to be Dave's turn to actually show you in the system how to do some of the stuff that we've been talking about. So I'm going to turn it over to Nick, and let's see if we can get this second poll up here. While he's doing that, I'll tell you the question is, which area of your business do you believe would benefit the most from automation? Should be able to choose something there. So the winner is sales and order processing, but clearly everyone has a, you know, all of these got some votes, and sales order processing came out on top, but not too far above production and financing and invoicing. So I think it just goes to show that everyone sees value in a lot of these different categories. So that's a good thing. And I think this is a great point for me to turn it over to Dave, and he's going to, you know, he's probably going to tell me I've been talking too much, and let's actually see some of this product.
That's quite all right. All right, perfect. Well, I appreciate the handoff there, Dan. And so we're just going to take some time here and run through some real-life examples. I'm hoping as we go through these, you guys will kind of be thinking of those areas and those pieces that Dan was pointing out there. We're just going to show some pretty basic examples of what you can do with the automation tools, and also take a look at how that ties into workflows and document management and the sales side, and really how the automation piece and the workflow piece can be so many different things, and really comes down to putting those Lego pieces, so to speak, together in a way that makes sense for your business. So what we're showing today definitely isn't going to be the end-all be-all for what you can do with automation, but certainly there's just a plethora of things that we can accomplish with the tools that are in there. So we're going to break it down into sections here and kind of focus on some small little tidbits as we go into each piece. So the first one here as we run through on the sales opportunity piece, we're going to take a look at a lead coming in from a website, for instance. So someone fills out a request for information on your website. So the automation piece can then actually take that, create a workflow request for the salesperson to follow up on, and create the prospect and the contact in the CRM system. So let's take a look at how that would work. So I'm on my CRM dashboard here, and you look under my workflow there, and I've got a web inquiry. So that actually came in from someone in the outside world filling in the information. And you'll see here where it created the test bike for me. So a brand new prospect. It's not not me having to type that in or anything. And then when I go back to that request, that's going to tell me I need to follow up with this person. So we're using the workflow engine to drive me as a salesperson to interact with John Johnson here at the Test Bike Company, whereas a lot of times that would go to just a group email or something like that. And you'll see here, so now Bob's owning this, and we're giving John a call, and hopefully this is going to turn into something else. But the account, the contact on that account, and this web inquiry that we're working off of, we're all automatically created, through the automation system. So we're going to kind of take a look at the other side of automation, though, as it revolves around quoting and ordering. And if we pull our account back up here, so I'm going to pull up my test bike account that, again, came in automatically. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to create an opportunity for this account as well. So now this is a manual process where we're going to see some automation happen on the back end of this process. So I'm going out and I'm selecting a sales cycle, and the sales cycles themselves are made up of different workflows that are set up within the system here. So what that's going to allow us to do is then create this automated process of tracking the CRM opportunity all the way through from the inception to the point where we hopefully get a quote and an order form. So I'm just putting in some various information here. And in this case, you'll see I'm going to manually fill out that the source for this one came from that web inquiry. Now, we could automatically create these opportunities as well, when that account comes in. Oh, say, whoops, I forgot to put the contact in there. So we'll get John on there and save that. But what the automation piece does then with that opportunity is now that's going to create a flow of workflow requests to track this all the way through the system. So you'll see this proposal development request was automatically generated because I put that opportunity in the system. And each one of these workflows can look a little bit different, capture different pieces of information through the course of the project. So you see I've got project numbers, some different things on there. So I'm going to prove that out. Now this is a 3-step one. So once I complete this, what this is going to do for me is actually create another request, a proposal review. And then if I go back into my proposal development here, and when I go up to process flow, I'm going to be able to see everything that needs to happen in this cycle and in this process. And I'm not having to manually create each one of these steps. The system's automatically doing that for me as I go through and tracking that, and then I have full visibility into that whole process without having to manually fill out paperwork or spreadsheets or anything like that. So again, a very simple example of where we can automate what traditionally would be an email-heavy flow or a paperwork-heavy type of flow. The next one we're going to take a look at is centered around order processing. And again, this is often a very manually intensive type of process. And then a lot of times customers need paperwork. They need validation that you put the order in, that you put the order in correctly. And then there's a lot of things that can happen along the way that can impact that order going through properly. So in this example, we're still the sales guy, and we're gonna pretend that we got the order from that opportunity that we put in. So we're just gonna put in an order here real quick. So you'll see again, this is a manual process that we're actually going to be supplementing with the automation piece and the workflow tools. So the key is the automation and the workflow don't have to exist necessarily in a vacuum per se, that this ties into your normal everyday processes. So we'll save the order header here, and then we're just going to go ahead and order our bike AS item. Now this is another area where if there were issues with margin, anything like that, we'd be able to create an automated workflow or an email to let someone know that, maybe we sold under margin, something to that effect. Now, since that order's been placed, what we want to do then is actually see, send out an order acknowledgement. So, generally you'd have to do that manually and print the report, send it to a PDF, send it to an email. But here we'll see that automatically generated an email with that order tied to it going out to the customer, and we have that attached in a PDF format here. So that just, the automation tool was looking for that order to have been put in, and we automatically sent that out. Now that's the external communication with the customer. The automation tool also lets us act internally as well. So let's say I pull that same customer back up, and we're going to go out to customer 901 here. So at the same time that it sent that email out, if I look in the document management system, it also put a copy of that order acknowledgement on the customer card for that customer as well. So you'll see there at the top there, we've got a type of sales order confirmation and order acknowledgement 753, and that same PDF is attached to the card. So if the customer calls back in and says, hey, I didn't receive the order acknowledgement, or there was some sort of issue with that, the sales rep can just come in and pull that up on their account card and shoot it right back out in an email. So lots of cool ways that we can automate interacting with our customers and communicate with them. Now let's say that order 753 is on back order, and we don't want Bob to have to be checking on that constantly. So we can have the automation system pulling orders and saying, hey, this is on back order. And in this case, we just automatically created a simple task to let Bob know that it's on back order. So he's going to drill down in here, pull up the email for Harry Mason, the contact on the order there, automatically open the email client, and now he can just shoot off an email to the contact on the customer there. That is something we can automate, but in this case we want to kind of combine automation with that human touch of it coming from Bob and not from the automated email system. But that would also be very possible that we could just go directly to the contact and let them know that, hey, your order is on back order. So there's lots of different ways to mix and match those communications as we're setting up the different events. So now we go back to our workflow, open the task up, and Bob can say, hey, I communicated this to the customer, and we've got a record that happened and that it's been communicated, and he can realize this task and be done with that. So one of the other things with the automation and the workflow is we're creating transparency where everyone and anyone can basically see what's going on at any given time. The next area we want to look at is around supply chain. So we put an order in, and maybe the components on that order were short some, so we're going to need to order some new material for that. Or maybe in some examples we need to set up a new item even that maybe we haven't ordered before to be able to make that, and we want some automation and some transparency into that process as well. So those are the two examples that we're going to dig into here a little bit. So in this case, we were short some bolts, and we're going to log into our purchasing persona here and take a look at the system here as if we're Jack Davis, our purchasing agent. So because we had a shortage of material from that previous order, what the automation system did is automatically created a materials purchase request, and we'll see that there in Jack's workflow. And this is telling Jack, because that order was put in, we now have a shortage on this item, we need to go out and order this particular item. So it's given him the quantity that we're short, who the preferred vendor is, and all the information around that. So he can drill right into the vendor from the workflow there, take a look at any purchase orders that may already be open. So again, combining the automation with the manual piece of it and the human eye. He says, okay, we don't have anything coming in for that amount, so I'm going to go ahead and create a purchase order for this. Now that's another step that you could look at automating, but a lot of times the purchasing piece you like to get some eyes on it. So we're going to put the PO header in, and then we're going to enter the bolt item that we're short, so we can't make our bicycle until we get these bolts into stock here. So Jack's going to go ahead and finish the order, and then make sure can type the quantity in right here. I think messed it up there. So that's another good example where we could add some automation in. So if we put that in at the 1050 instead of 1500, we could say, hey, this is way over our normal ordering quantity. So now he's going to be able to go back in right here from the supplier account and say that he's completed this. Now again, this could be supplemented with some additional steps as well to automatically send this to the the next department if there's some sort of approval needed, or even create the PO right from that particular request. So the next piece I want to look at is if we didn't have an item set up at all and we needed to go through a whole approval process to do that. So I'm logging in here as Sally, our engineering person, and she's got a new item creation request in her workflow there that she needs to pull up. So if maybe you're familiar with some of the older versions of Macola, you'll see we've got a lot of the same information that you would find on an item master, and probably in any ERP system you're going to see similar data. So this is where workflow and automation and data are all converging. So we see all the different pieces of information that need to be collected to create a new item. But you'll see at the top we've got a whole slew of steps. So create, approve, realize, process. So what this allows us to do is collect that information from different departments and then move that through the logical steps there. And at that final process stage, the automation system is actually going to take that data and push that into the back office as a created item. So you're combining the interactions that generally have to happen between different departments and creating an actual transaction off of that interaction and creating a logical, transparent type of flow as you move from department to department. So next we're going to take a look at production, and so we've got that order sitting out there, and you know, they haven't been able to work on it yet because some of those components were missing that we had to actually go out and order. So we're kind of taking a leap of faith here, and we're skipping over the step where you'd actually receive that PO in. But in this case, we're going to say, hey, we want to notify the production people that we've got the components in stock now and are able to begin production on that particular order that's tied to. So I'm going to log in as my production person here as Bruce. And some of these can be as simple or as complex as you want them to be. You'll see we had a task there sitting in Bruce's workflow that was automatically generated from the fact that a purchase order was received. So this is just a simple notification saying that, hey, for this customer order, for this item over here, the bolts, we now have the material to complete that. But he can verify that by drilling down and looking at the inventory for that and saying, hey, I now have that in stock in my Boston plan here where I received that in. So again, he can double check that the automated system is in line with the real world scenario as well. Say, hey, everything looks good. Now we can go ahead and start production on this. So again, another simple example of where we're letting Bruce know, but we have tracking that goes all the way through that as well. Now, the other thing I want to look at on the production side is talking a little bit about quality and how the automation piece and the workflow piece can tie into quality as well. So this, again, could be automated or not, but let's say we need to enter a corrective action. So this is something where we could use the workflow engine and say, hey, these bolts were messed up, so let's collect the data and be able to derive some KPIs around why these bolts and any other items were messed up. So in this case, the guy, as he was receiving, dropped the box of bolts on the floor. We're going to say it was from account 500 here. What do we want to do with them? We're going to use them as is. So this is going back to talking about those KPIs and allowing us to start collecting those and getting data out of the system as well. So here we say Susie is responsible for this. So what this is also doing is creating that automated workflow where an action took place and we need it to go to someone else in order for something to happen, for someone to take action on that and do something with it. Oh, shoot, and see, I've faked myself out there and have to put a date in, so we've got our validations in there. So now we've created that, and again, we could have that picked up. That could be part of a corrective action type of report, quality analysis. You know, we're collecting all this data, and all that ties back into the automation and the workflow pieces. Next, we're going to take a quick look at a couple cool little things we can do on the shipping side. both with the automation piece and then also using the workflow piece in some unique ways to be able to capture and tie notes to an order. So I'm going to log in here as my shipping person. So as a shipping person, I've got a whole list of orders. I'm going to put in my required ship dates here, and then that's going to generate a whole list of orders for me that I need to ship out today. So then I'm going to see that order 753 that we've kind of been working with here. I'm sorry, 736. Getting dyslexic on us here. So I can take actions on this, but I can also, let's say I want to put notes or comments on this order. So I'm going to go and leave a comment on this. You'll see we have a very simple one-step workflow. Now let's say this is going to ship late, and eventually we come back and say, well, why did this ship out late? Now I've got a mechanism that I can capture those notes to say, you know, let's say for instance this is going to ship out late, and it's because if I look outside here in the office, it's raining today, so I don't feel like going outside and loading the truck necessarily, so it's going to ship today instead of tomorrow. So what this replaces though is the need for you know, for Peter to send an email to Bob and let him know that this order can't ship. So in this particular instance, it's a one-step workflow. And as we refresh our screen here, we're going to see that creates a little note for me beside that particular order. So in this case, Bob would come out and need to look at that. But again, we could add an additional step to that, and then that's going to automatically notify the salesperson that the order is going to ship out late. And you'll see here I'm getting that information. I can pull that up and view that note. So not to reiterate it, but we're adding transparency to the process here. Let's say that order ships out tomorrow. Everything's great, but now we want to let the customer know that the order shipped. So we can automatically send the email here with a tracking number in it. Now this is an old tracking number. We can create that hyperlink right in the tracking number, pull up the UPS World Ship System, FedEx, whatever the carrier might be, and we're doing that straight from the email. And you know, without a human, as Dan mentioned earlier, having to copy and paste a tracking number into an email and send it to someone, we're just letting the automation system see that the order's gone out and popping that information into that email and doing kind of an advanced shipment notification of sorts there. Now the final piece we want to touch on here is on the financing and invoicing side. We're going to look at a couple different pieces here. So the automation of sending out invoices to customers. So we've taken that order all the way through. We've billed it, shipped it, invoiced it, and you know, it's always a pain to print the invoices and stuff them in envelopes. And sometimes I guess you just have to do that with some customers. But you know, moving forward, you know, it's really great to be able to just have that automatically go out as an invoice. And then we're going to look at another unique way of using the system to capture notes around when somebody's not paying, why they're not paying. So first, let's take a look here. We've invoiced, and now if we go out and take a look at our email here, we see that invoice 518 has gone out to the customer as a PDF. So again, you know, we can pull that up. It's going to act just like any other PDF would. But similar to what we did with the order acknowledgement, for internal purposes, we can go and now pull that customer back up. And we're going to go back into the document management system. And we see that that sales invoice has automatically been attached as a document to that particular customer. Again, automatically without anyone having to intervene with it or do anything. So we've got a record within the system that invoice went out, and we can always go back and resend that if we need to without having to go and print anything or do anything like that, or print it or do what we need to with it. So there's a lot of value in getting that loaded up without having to do a whole lot with it. And then we can also, you know, as we're looking at these, we can switch our types. So we're using the automation to create a lot of different types of documents for the internal system here. So we can search on those. We can do a lot of different pieces with that. And then we can configure this screen as well to do quite a few things. And as we're tying the automation in there, we're creating this whole repository of data and information to be able to store things. You can see we've got a lot of options around how you can slice and dice this. So it goes further than just automation and workflows in there. So the final piece I want to take a look at here, we're going to log in as our finance person. And we're going to use the workflow pieces to take a look at capturing data related around collections. Now again, we could automate a lot of pieces with collections and send out statements and reminders. In this case, we're going to look at a simple example of we're just looking at our AR aging, and we're going to drill down into a particular customer here, and we're going to see all their outstanding invoices. So now let's say we want to track the communications with that customer. We can drill down into the notes section, and we can either edit an existing note or we can create a new note. But what this is going to do for us is allow us to use the workflow engine, and then if we want to automate this and send it to different folks for different approval levels, we have the ability to do that. So we're just going to put in a new note here with a type of sales invoice. And you'll see again, this is one of those one-step workflows, and we're just going to say we contacted this person again. So we're creating a whole bunch of data related to this, and we have the ability to pull that up again and edit that. What that does is let us keep this in the system without having to go outside of it, and anyone else that comes in is going to be able to see that. And then we can also, as you hit certain past due dates, we can kick off pieces to send to account managers or send it on up the chain if we need to. So that's the last piece of that, and again, those were some pretty simple ones, that we wanted to demonstrate you can do with the automation and the workflow pieces. It can be very simple, or it can be, very complex to support big processes with a lot of different steps, and those pieces can be automated along the way there. So with that, I want to go ahead and pass it back over to Dan, and leave us with some parting thoughts here.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Dave. Let me also mention that we've gotten a lot of questions in the box down here. We'll take some time to try to answer as many of those as we can. A couple of them that I've had come up several times. What tool are we using for the automation? The answer to that is it's Exact Event Manager. So this is not anything third party. This is built into Macola 10. And most of what Dave showed, actually I think maybe all of it, is available in 10 prior to 10.4. I don't think any of this was something we released in 10.4.
Right. None of that functionality was like brand spanking new stuff. So even if you're on an older version.
Exactly. So as long as you're on 10 dot something, you should have that functionality. So let's go ahead and cover these last couple of slides, and we'll do this. We'll do some of the Q&A. The automated workflows, I hope what you guys took away from this is that it really is like having extra employees who work 24/7, who never call in sick, who always have their eyes open, watching what's going on in your business, right? And so, you can use automation as a time saver. You can use it as an error reducer. You can use it as something to help you mitigate risk. You can help it. You can help get rid of the paper in your office by automating things directly into Macola. So there's a lot of things that we can do with automation, and a lot of ways to make your business more profitable. From either reducing expenses or increasing revenues. So this picture here may look familiar to you if you're on Macola 10. Basically, this is just a quick reminder of what functionality is built into Macola 10. You've got manufacturing, project management, distribution, quality, accounting, HR, and CRM. Now, those are the core pieces. In addition to that, you also get business process management, automation, and our customizable workspaces. So all of that comes out of the box with Macola 10. And the core tenets of Macola 10, I was just waiting for the screen to paint there. The core tenets of Macola 10, when I think about what does Macola 10 mean, it's an all-inclusive solution. It's integrated end to end. It's based on a web services model, and that means it's browser-based. It's using modern architecture. It's has external APIs available. We can expose our APIs. We can consume external APIs. And finally, this idea of anytime, any device, right? Whether it's a phone or a tablet or a desktop or a browser, you can use Macola 10. All right, well, for additional info, we're doing a couple things that you might be interested in. One, of course, is a replay of this webinar. We'll be sending that out. Second is a post-webinar survey. But also, we'll be doing a full-on demo next week, and I want to encourage you to come to that. Dave's got some really good stuff cooked up there. You know, we have some workspaces now that really just look top-notch as far as, you know, modern ERP software, and we're able to do that with our workspaces technology that we rolled out in 10.3. Was that 10.3 or 10.4? We introduced widgets. Okay, so it's 10.4. I get my versions mixed up sometimes. 10.4, we introduced widgets. We call those workspaces 2.0. And so Dave's got some really cool stuff lined up that we can do with those widgets. We'll be sending out some more information via email to everyone that registered here, as well as a link to register for that follow-on demo. You know, if you're interested in what you've seen here today, definitely reach out to your business partner, reach out to us directly. However you want to get involved, feel free to do that. And you can do that on our website. You can fill out the form. You can call us. However you want to get in touch, we'd love to hear from you. So I know we've got about 10 minutes left. Let's hit some of these Q&As, and we'll just kind of tackle these one at a time. So Dave, well, there's a couple in here. I don't know if you can see these on your screen that have to do with you know, specific functionality. Like, can you use automation to print order acknowledgments or to print pick tickets and packing slips, that sort of stuff. So can you, is there a place maybe that lists every possible thing that you can automate, or how would you approach that?
Yeah, I don't know that there's necessarily a list of every possible thing that you can automate, but sort of a rule of thumb is, so the short answer to that question is yes, all of those can be automated. So basically anything that can potentially generate a crystal report or a SSRS report could potentially be automated, and that could be sent in an email form. There's even some ways, we didn't demonstrate it today, but there's ways to send that directly to a printer, even if you need a hard copy like a pick ticket that can be sent out. So and even if it's custom stuff that maybe we don't do out of the box, if you can make a form to show the data, then that can be automated and sent in a PDF type of format.
Okay. Let's see. How about using this with progression? Is that doable?
Some of it, yes. So say that you, you know, the tool that we're using, the Event Manager tool, could be used with a progression back office. Now, the things we looked at around workflow, you may or may not be able to use depending on what other products you have. But as far as like sending invoices, printing acknowledgments, pick tickets, things like that, you would be able to do that with progression, but some of the advanced things and document management things you wouldn't be able to do.
Okay. How about PDFs that you were able to save into Synergy, like in the invoice automation part? Mm-hmm. Can you address how those PDFs were created and saved into Synergy?
Yeah, so part of the automation tool there is the ability to create an action where you map data to a document on the Synergy document management side. So you pass the information over, and then the attachment itself is, in the example we showed, was just a crystal report. So that crystal report then gets run as a PDF and attached to the document. Now, it's also important to point out that it doesn't necessarily have to be a PDF. The system can also generate Excel files, Word documents, can export that in a lot of different formats, but, you know, obviously in Invoice it makes sense for that to be a non-editable type of file.
Okay. You see anything else here, Nick, that we want to try to, I mean, some of these questions are a little bit more in depth that I think require some thought and some longer responses. And so, Nick, I know that you typically go through these and address these individually. So, what can people expect if they've asked a question in the form here?
Yeah, really, we'll just a reminder, we'll send out a link to view the recording. We're trying to answer the questions that we can here. If we can't answer your question now, we'll follow up, and I'll connect you with someone who will get you that answer. Or if you have questions even after, you can email me. Just reply to the email you get. Also, one other note is we've created a nice little white paper about automated workflows. And if you like some of the examples that you saw, really this was just something to kind of get you thinking about, if you aren't, get you thinking about what you could be doing with it. We created an automated workflows white paper, and we'll be including a link to that and sending that to you as well if you're interested, if you want to learn more about it.
Dave, one last question, because I think this is a good one to end on.
Okay.
If someone wants to get started with automation, how can they learn enough to kind of get started and automate their first few things?
So the documentation and help within the product is pretty good and sort of walks you through doing a basic type of event. And I think there is some learning paths
good.
available.
All right. So yes, if you've got learning paths, that'll coach you through your first few.
Yeah, and it goes through and says here's how to set up an email type event, and if you start with something easy and then kind of get the hang of it, and can start getting into more advanced type things.
All right. Well, that's great. Well, I think we're done here, Nick. Do you have any closing thoughts on your side?
No, I just wanted to thank everyone again for attending. And we know your time is valuable, so we appreciate you spending it with us today. So again, thank you again for joining us, and just have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks a lot.